It's the 4th of December 1950, and struggling to keep his plane in the air is Jesse Leroy Brown. Jesse hears on the radio,
"Jesse, you're streaming something. It looks as if you're streaming fuel."
The 6 F-4U Corsairs have been flying low over the mountains, and the enemy forces have been taking pot shots at them. To the dismay of the other pilots, Jesse said, "Yes, I am losing fuel, and I don't know how long I'll be able to stay up." His friend, Tom Hudner, is flying alongside. He turns his attention to his friend's aircraft and sees a trail of liquid streaming out the back. Hudner's heart drops. It's happened at the worst possible time. They're deep in enemy territory, and below them is a brutally cold, mountainous landscape. But they're out of options. The men search the inhospitable terrain for any possible landing spots. They see a clearing on the mountainside. It's not much, but it will have to do. Flying alongside, Tom Hudner reminds Jesse to double-check his harness and lock his canopy open so that he can escape. The men watch anxiously as Jesse drops his ordnance and approaches the clearing, moving lower and lower until the Corsair hits hard and throws up snow and ice as it grinds to a halt on the mountainside. The cloud of snow in the air settles slowly. The flight passes over and sees Jesse's aircraft with its fuselage bent at the cockpit. The canopy is slammed shut from the impact, and ominously, smoke seems to be rising from the engine. The planes fly again over the crash site, searching desperately for a sign of life. The men breathe a sigh of relief. Jesse's alive. He waves at them, and the squadron calls for a rescue helicopter. But Hudner feels unease. Something is wrong. Jesse's not getting out. Seconds turn into a minute as the squadron circles the area. Smoke still rises from the wrecked aircraft's cowling, and Jesse remains within.
"Helicopter on its way. ETA 45 minutes.
Hudner's unease turns to dread. It's just too long. If Jesse's trapped or badly hurt, he'll be killed by the fire or the cold long before the rescue gets here. Without speaking a word to the rest of his squadron, Hudner makes an incredibly brave decision. He separates from the formation. He cuts his engine, drops his ordnance, secures his harness, and locks the canopy open.
"What the hell are you doing, Tom?"
"I'm going to help Jesse."
It's a rough landing, and his back is hurt. But struggling out of the plane, he sees Jesse's Corsair. Hudner recalls that day in his own words.
I got out of my plane and went up to his, and Jesse had seen me coming, and his first words were, "Tom, we've got to figure out a way of getting out of here." I could hardly believe how calm he was under the circumstances. He had taken his helmet off, so he's barehanded. His hands were frozen, and I was able to, with great difficulty, pull myself up onto the wing and then alongside the cockpit. I used to carry a woolen cap pocket of my flying suit, and I pulled that down over Jesse's head and ears, and then I had a scarf, and I wrapped the scarf around his hands, which couldn't have done any good at all, but I'd hoped that that would give him a little bit of help. You could see that the reason he didn't get out of the airplane was because he was caught in between the inside of the cockpit and a control stick that we had. It was between our legs, and he just couldn't move. Jesse and I talked a little bit. There wasn't much conversation that went on. He said to me, "Tom, if anything happens to me, tell Daisy how much I love her."
Hudner attempts to put out the fire with snow, shoving it into the engine cowling while he waits for rescue. The helicopter finally arrives half an hour later. Hudner's in a rush to get Jesse out and asks the helicopter pilot what tools he has in the chopper, but he's saddened to learn that all he has is an axe. Hudner takes it anyway. He chops at the instrument panel and the fuselage, attempting to bend the metal into releasing his friend, but nothing's working. Hudner gets progressively more distraught as the impossibility of the task becomes evident. But even in these dire times, Jesse calms him down. "Everything will be okay," he says. But time is running out. It's been over an hour. The sun threatens to fall under the horizon, and Jesse is weakening. They consider trying to remove Jesse's legs to free him, but they don't have the tools, know-how, or the time. Hudner keeps trying with all his might, bending and prying, but the metal refuses to budge. He keeps fighting with increased despair. While Hudner tries everything he can, Jesse's eyes fall closed for the last time. Hudner tries to talk to him, but receives no response. Then he tries to wake him, but Jesse doesn't react. Hudner resumes his efforts with heart-wrenching resolve. He can't abandon him. It can't end like this. But then, the helicopter pilot brings him terrible news.
He just said, I'm not equipped for flying at night in mountainous terrain. He said, I've got to go. And he said, you can stay here, but I've got to get my airplane out of here. And it was so obvious that there's nothing we could do for Jess at that time.
Defeated and heartbroken, Hudner approaches his friend for the last time and promises that he will return.
By the time we left him, he had expired.
Jesse's loss was felt heavily by the squadron. He was a gentle and strong man who had fought through poverty and the difficulty of segregation to become the first African-American aviator in the US Navy. The next day, Hudner pleaded for a recovery mission to bring Jesse's remains home, but his superiors turned him down, citing the unreasonable danger of a recovery behind enemy lines. Instead, 2 days later, they were ordered to bomb the wrecked aircraft to prevent their capture. It was considered a Viking burial for Jesse. The squadron watched with a heavy heart as it burned. Together, the pilots recited the Lord's Prayer and a final goodbye. Thomas J. Hudner was awarded the Medal of Honor for his bravery and determination during the attempted rescue. During the ceremony, he would get the chance to deliver Jesse's last words to his wife, Daisy.
He said to me, Tom, if anything happens to me, tell Daisy how much I love her.
But he never forgave himself for failing to fulfill his promise of returning. And in 2013, at the age of 88, Tom flew to North Korea alongside the author of Devotion, Adam Makos, to ask for the recovery of Jesse's remains. The Koreans gave Tom permission to bury an old friend and gave the green light for the army to search the area for his remains, and even allowed Tom to follow the search. But sadly, they came out empty-handed, and because of heavy monsoon rains, Tom did not get the chance to return to the mountains where his old friend passed away. Thomas Hudner died on November the 13th, 2017. The film Devotion, featuring the story of Jesse and Tom, was released in 2022. Shortly after the incident, the men of Fighter Squadron 32 wrote a eulogy for their fallen brother. It read, Jesse Leroy Brown, a Christian soldier, a gentleman, a shipmate and friend. His courage and faith shone like a beacon for all to see. If you like this video, please subscribe and share and help us make more.